What is happening, guys? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to Johnny Gaz Live. It's 9:30 on a Tuesday, and we're going to be talking Detroit Lions. How are you feeling after 2 weeks of the NFL season? We have so many fun topics to talk about tonight. Of course, we're going to hit on the demolition of the Chicago Bears. We're going to talk about the Ben Johnson return. We're going to talk about the offensive explosion, offense, defense, special teams. We're going to hit it all. We're going to talk about that Chicago's Bears game in detail. We'll also get into some fun topics. I got some things in chat. I'd love to get you guys involved. I'd love to hear your questions. We're going to hit you up all night long, so definitely say hello. We're going to be flying solo here tonight, here from my basement in Glens Falls, New York. I hope you guys are all feeling well tonight. Thank you so much for joining on a Tuesday evening. I appreciate you guys so much. If you haven't already, make sure to slap the like button, share the stream so we can get your friends and family involved. Let's talk Lions football together, guys. It is so much fun as we're now getting into the meat and bones of this regular season to talk Lions football with you. I had so much fun doing so. Definitely hit me up in the chat, say hello. Let's get involved and have a good evening. What do we say? So again, we're going to be flying solo tonight. We're going to hit you guys up in chat, hopefully get some fun, interactive content. And again, let's start off with the big topic of the day, the demolition of the Chicago Bears. And you have to admit, I mean, coming out of week one, that Packers game, I think a lot of fans were feeling a certain way about the Lions. A lot of media pundits feeling a certain way about the Lions. Talking a lot of stuff about the new offensive coordinator, John Morton, and the fact that the Lions no longer had Ben Johnson as this architect of the offense. Well, coming out of week one, those questions were valid, but I think a lot of those questions were answered now in this week two game against the Chicago Bears. So let me know in the chat, what's the first word that comes to mind when you think about this demolition of the Chicago Bears? Give me one word. Lions defeat the Chicago Bears in week two. Let me know in the chat. I'd love to see what you guys think. One word. Good evening, Davey. How you doing, buddy? So as we know, final score of that game, 52-21. A 50 burger, very rare in the NFL, but the Lions have become a little bit more accustomed to that over the past several seasons. Over 500 yards of total offense. Just incredible. Really incredible. You know, the big storyline, we talked about Ben Johnson coming into town. And you have to wonder, a 52-point outburst in week two at home, your home opener. You know, were the Lions trying to prove something? Was this a situation where they were not going to allow Ben Johnson to punk them? And you compile that with the fact of what that result was in week one against Green Bay, and it was almost a must-win situation there for the Lions. So they certainly showed up and showed out in the tune of 52 points, 8.8 yards per play. That is an incredible offensive output. I think more than anything, it answers the question about this new Lions offensive coordinator, John Morton. They certainly have the explosiveness that everyone said that they lacked after week one. But I think the question now is, after 2 weeks, is this Lions offense what we saw in week one, or is it more in tune with what we saw in week two? That's really the ultimate question. And we have to allow this several weeks to really see if this John Morton offense is even more potent than what the Ben Johnson offense was. We certainly can't make that conclusion after one amazing performance, and it was awesome. Their quarterback was awesome. Jared Goff was awesome in that matchup. He really was. 23 of 28, 334 yards, and 5 scores. No interceptions. I mean, that's incredible. Pretty much a perfect passer rating. Not as perfect as it was that game in Seattle last year, but close. Millicent, what's happening? Greetings from Comerica Park. Awesome. You at the game. That is fantastic. Good for you. I appreciate you even going the extra mile and getting involved in the chat. How are you? That's fantastic. Go Lions, go Tigers. You know what I'm saying? So much fun in the D as far as sports right now. It is amazing. We're talking about Jared Goff's performance in week 2 against the Bears. What an incredible showing for the Lions quarterback. Got his number 1 target involved early, often, and always. The sun god, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Everything of the all-pro that we know he is. 3 touchdowns on the day, 9 catches, 115 yards. And it was like every time the Lions needed something, he was there. And that's a common theme for Amon-Ra St. Brown. And you got that in this week 2 matchup. Mark says, I know more about football than you'll ever know. You talk garbage, the Lions will be number 1 at the end no matter what. And Green Bay game was all rigged, so learn before you talk. Mark, I think you should hang around the channel just a little bit more if you think I'm talking smack about the Lions. But I appreciate you getting involved. Thank you for coming to the chat. I love having any and every opinion. We can talk about it all night long. I will be here for the next hour and change. Every Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and Facebook at Johnny Gaz Sports. If you search on any of your socials, you can find that fun, reliable, concise Detroit Lions content. But more than anything, I appreciate you getting involved this evening. Jameson Williams, 2 catches on the day, over 100 yards receiving, and did have the big touchdown catch. I'm sure they'd love to get him more involved, more touches, because it seems like the more he touches the football, the more explosion seems to happen. So you wonder if those 2 touches turned into 4, 6, 8 touches in a game, you know, what his true potential would be. And we talked about it all off season. But he scores a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, another solid day from him. 94 yards, got in the end zone at over 100 scrimmage yards. You know, really what you wanted to see out of these Lions. Good evening, John. How you doing, Mr. Herman? You know, we had David Montgomery getting in the end zone as well. Lions over 170 yards rushing on the day. So a really good day there. Over a 5-yard average. And a lot of this speaks on the play of that offensive line, which was, again, so maligned coming out of that Green Bay matchup in week 1. They were so beat up as far as what they did on the interior. Couldn't tell you how much I heard that this would be the reckoning. This would be the downfall of the Lions offense, is what's happening on the offensive line. Well, if you only looked at week 1, you certainly could say that. But now that we've seen after 2 weeks and what they did against a decent Bears front, I don't know if they're as good as the Packers front. And they're certainly not playing as well as the Packers defense is right now. They don't have a player like Micah Parsons. But the Lions offensive line was really fantastic in this week 2 game against the Bears. That's what allows Jared Goff to do the things that he was able to do. You allow him time in the pocket, able to read through progressions, and he can be an elite quarterback, and he showed that against the Bears. And Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, the play action game, all of that stems from that excellent offensive line play. Milson says, it's a beautiful night. Unfortunately, Tigers need a miracle here in the top of the 10th. Can't wait to get home and catch up on all of today's Lions news. Millicent, I appreciate you always for hanging around the channel. I hope you have a safe ride home. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for getting involved in the chat while you're at the game. That's awesome. That's really awesome. Let's bring in the chat, actually. Let's get you guys involved here on stream so you guys can see what is going on. Again, we're talking about the week 2 matchup. The Lions destroying the Bears 52-21. I asked for you guys to describe in one word what that victory was over the Bears. Give me one word that describes the Lions destroying the Bears 52-21 in week 2. Let me know in those chat. And like we said, the only way that this offense really continues this type of play is through a solid offensive line. The interior has to continue to be a strength. And I think they want to even see the running game pick up even more than what they got in week 2. But it was certainly a great start and a great pickup from the week 1 matchup against Green Bay. So that was awesome to see. Again, the Lions average 8.8 yards per play. That's a franchise record. They didn't do that during the Ben Johnson era, but they did do that in the John Morton era. So hopefully this means many great things to come. Philly Mike OG says Drake May officially a Cincinnati Bengal. Okay, so that makes sense. That makes sense, right? Because they now need a quarterback. They need a backup quarterback, so they had to make some moves. 2 first. Okay, thank you, Philly. Appreciate that. Philly coming in with the updates. I like that a lot. Courtesy of Adam Schefter through Philly Mike. Philly Mike, just take credit for it next time. You could be the Johnny Gaz insider if you really want, my man. That'd be great. But no, I appreciate the information, and it makes sense because they're hurting at quarterback now. Speaking of quarterbacks, let's talk about a topic I had set aside for later, but I think this is a great segue into it. I'm listening to 97 Won the Ticket, at least through their YouTube channel. And the afternoon show, if you're familiar with Mike Valeni and Rico and the producers in that studio, David, I think his name is. Mike brought up, the main host brought up, he was watching the Monday Night Football game last night, Buccaneers, and specifically watching the quarterback play, Baker Mayfield, who he seems to really have a thing for. Well, watching him last night has convinced Mike Valeni that if you replaced Jared Goff with Baker Mayfield, that immediately makes the Detroit Lions the Super Bowl favorites. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. Number one, would you exchange Jared Goff for Baker Mayfield right now? Let's just say 1 for 1. Forget about the money. Forget about picks, player exchanges. Forget about all that. Would you just trade out Jared Goff for Baker Mayfield? And if so, give me the reasons why you would do that. I'd love to hear from you guys. And this is not a Baker Mayfield knock for any reason, because I think he's a really good quarterback. I think he's gutsy. I think he's a playmaker. He's carried that offense at times. And they've looked good through 2 weeks of this NFL season. I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield is not a quality quarterback or that I wouldn't take him on my team. But I certainly wouldn't sit here and say I would exchange him for Jared Goff or that ultimately makes the Lions a better football team. Because with that argument from Mike Valeni from 97 Won the Ticket, I think what we fail to think about is the fact that Jared Goff's beaten him multiple times over now, current or in recent times in the playoffs. He's played better than him in the playoffs. So there's a lot of things to consider. I certainly would not make that move, but I'm surprised that, more than anything, maybe I'm surprised that at a local Detroit radio show, a guy that's been there for 2 decades now, I think. And it's not like he's ever proclaimed to be a lifetime Lions fan. We know he's a New York guy. He's a Giants fan at heart. He hasn't hidden that fact. But to hear that radio show to talk so negatively and coming out of what was such a great victory in week 2 against the Bears, to talk and bring up topics that seem to lean in the negative and the pessimistic side of things, it's crazy. So yeah, I'm with you. John says absolutely no in all caps. Danny says keep Goff. Again, the question here is, would you exchange out Jared Goff for Baker Mayfield right now? And if so, does that make the Lions a better football team? I say no. And this is all stemming from 97 Won the Ticket, local Detroit radio station host Mike Valeni making this claim. Go look it up on YouTube. I'm not trying to just sell you for the podcast here. This is exactly what a local Detroit radio host said he would do right now. Lion King A. Williams says, what is Marcus Davenport's status? So I'm waiting to hear a final word. I think they said they're waiting for a second opinion is what I got today. And I think we all know what that means. I'll give you my honest opinion. I think what that means is they have something that could be a little bit more long-term than anybody would have wanted. And they want some other doctor to come in and go, no, we could do this with it. I think it's a shoulder problem, right? So that's the issue. And we know, man, Marcus Davenport, dude, I wish I could sit here and say that I didn't see this coming. I think a lot of people would say they saw this coming. This is his track record. And I just thought the law of averages might play in his favor this year. So I was thinking good things. I try to stay on the optimistic side. When talking about Valeni's pessimism, I certainly try to remain optimistic. And I thought that Marcus Davenport, by rule of law and numbers, would have a decent season health-wise. Well, it seems like he's not off to a good start. And Lion King, it sounds like the shoulder injury might be an issue. The question is it short-term or is it a long-term absence? So the Lions are going to have to come up with something. We're going to have to come up with something. Brent says, no way. Baker's a good quarterback, but Goff fits our current system better. I agree with you, man. They've set the system up exactly for Jared Goff. So that's a perfect point. Brent, I appreciate you always getting involved in the chat. Very knowledgeable and always bring the good stuff. And I agree with you. This is the Goff offense. We've talked about that in previous episodes. It's just the offensive line, the way they've set up their running back room, the way they can work the play action, their offensive weapons. And that's not to say that another quarterback couldn't step in and pick that up. But the truth is, like, there's a lot of headiness and smarts to Jared Goff's game that don't just translate to other quarterbacks. Bruce says, would have to consider it, but would not be able to pull the trigger. Yeah, I agree. Because I like Baker. I'm not a non-Baker guy, but I just think that right now, with what Brent said, this offense being set up for Jared Goff and the way that things are looking now coming out of week 2, I would not make that move at all. And again, this is all hypothetical and an interesting topic brought up by a local Detroit radio show. So going back to the Bears win here, the offensive line, again, really, really good and efficient in this matchup. Pass blocking, run blocking, everything kind of coming together. Tate Ratledge looks like a mauler. I mean, we kind of knew that, but this is now translating to actual film and tape. We're starting to see it. No sacks allowed on the day. Kept Jared Goff clean pretty much. Again, I think they'd like to open up a little bit more running lanes for both Monty and Jahmyr Gibbs. I think the inside rushing attack still leaves a little bit to be desired there. I do. And it's hard to say that off of a 52-point performance, but you know, I know that they're striving for greatness and they've run the football better in other matchups where they've scored lesser points. So it's something that I'm on the lookout for. Yeah, this wasn't just a win. This was historic type efficiency from an offense when everybody told us coming out of week 1 after Green Bay that they wouldn't be the same. And again, they have to sustain this. They got to do this for multiple weeks. And I'm not saying score 52 points over and over again, but they got to show class offensively against good teams. And they have good teams coming up. We're going to talk about their Monday night matchup here in just a little bit. And then they have some games coming out of that. Yeah, you know, Cleveland's in there, but they have games against Kansas City and against Baker Mayfield and this Tampa Bay Bucs team who we're just talking about. They actually have to play Tampa Bay yet again coming up in a few weeks. But yeah, mentioning the Marcus Davenport injury, that's a good point, Lion King. Let's go back to that for a second, because I think that creates a situation where the Lions have to do something on the defensive line. And do they have enough on the edge to make up for if Marcus Davenport isn't involved for the next several weeks or even more long-term than that? Can El-Qadim Muhammad be the guy? You know, through 2 weeks, he's been pretty good. He got a sack against Chicago. He looked good against Green Bay, actually. But he's undersized. And I don't know if he offers the type of production that you want opposite Aiden Hutchinson. And there's not anybody behind that that's going to show up to be that person. So will they get enough from Hutch and the interior with Tyleek and DJ Reader and kind of hold off until Aleem McNeil comes back? And I think if they can all remain healthy and that happens, things should look up. Lion King says, take Goff over Baker. Saying this as a former Goff hater. So hey, I appreciate that, because, and again, being a Lions fan since I was born, I don't know that I remember. I mean, there's a few quarterbacks that took some hate in this system, but Jared Goff, I think because of the way he came to the franchise and he wasn't really looked at as the guy, he was supposed to be the bridge to the next guy. And then Dan Campbell happened and Brad Holmes happened, and this thing progressed so quickly in 2023 that then Jared Goff became the guy, and it's hard to flip all of the fan base over like that. And because I think he doesn't have some of the athletic traits of some other quarterbacks that people like, then he becomes a worse guy, because when the Lions lose, I mean, it's always easy to look at the quarterback in any NFL loss situation, but because Goff is not able to scramble out of trouble, get you that 10-yard first down when you have to have it. He's not Jalen Hurts. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Lamar Jackson. But he's Jared Goff, and he works for this system. But I appreciate that, Lion King. So let's wrap up the talk about the Bears and the Lions from week 2, because I think we need to move ahead. I think there's more questions that need to be answered. There's a lot of good that came out of this game, and we talked about a lot of it. I have to mention Isaac Tesla before I go too much farther, because, again, his first 2 catches in the NFL are the 2 of the best we'll see all year long. That's just an incredible way to start your career. And the one that he caught against the sideline against the Bears actually helped them in getting a touchdown to end the half. So as much as the meaningless touchdown against Green Bay happened, that one actually was very meaningful. And at the time of that game, it meant a lot. So they're going to give this kid opportunities. I know you hear Dan Campbell say this in his press conferences, but the problem that he has is that you got Amon-Ra in front of you, you got J-Mo in front of you, and they still like Khalif Raymond, and they like Sam Laporta, and they can go to their backs anytime they want. He's so still far back in the pecking order, but there's so much there. There's so much meat on the bones. I've said that twice already in this live, and I'm sorry, guys. Meat on the bones. There's a third one for you, just because. But Tesla has got something. The Lions have something in him, and I'm excited to see what they'll do with him in future weeks. Question for you guys in the chat. Again, before we leave this matchup for week 2, I got to know, is this so meaningful in a sense that they beat Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears, or is it more meaningful in a sense that the Lions were able to come out of what was week 1's negativity? You know, I mean, what do you think ultimately kind of runs the show for them moving forward? I mean, how satisfying truly was it to see the Lions spoil Ben Johnson's return? I guess that's what I'm getting at. Was that the sense that you get out of this game, is the fact that we spoiled Ben Johnson's return? Are you more satisfied with the fact that the Lions were able to reestablish their offensive identity, their identity overall, and now kind of move forward through the season? Because there's a lot of themes there to week 2. All right, guys, so let's transition. That was week 2. Now we're talking what's upcoming, week 3, because the Lions have what will be their biggest test of the season now so far, a team that has dominated them in the past. And in a similar situation where they had to travel to Baltimore and just got ran over like a train in that game. It really wasn't even competitive. It actually felt similar to what we just experienced with the Lions over the Bears, but in the opposite way. Now, they didn't give up 52 points, but the control of that game in the trenches and everything we saw against Baltimore a couple years ago. So now they go back into Baltimore. And not only in a regular situation, but a Monday night situation. A Monday night football matchup against Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, and the Ravens. Because I agree, Lion King, and that's why we go there. This is a much more important matchup in the bigger sense of things, in the bigger picture, because this really proves what the Lions are. Can they hang with the big boys? And I know that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens suffered the tough loss in week 1 against Buffalo. That was such a fantastic game. But they looked much better in week 2. A 41-17 win. Now, it was over Cleveland, but Lamar threw 4 TDs, started to show some improvement, some rhythm. He looked a little sharper. And their defense and their special teams capitalize on things. They always have, but this season especially. And this is going to be a true test for the Lions. It really is. It's going to test the new offensive system. It's going to test Calvin Shepard and the defensive system. You know, the one thing the Lions not the one. They did several things well defensively in week 2. They didn't do much well in week 1, but in week 2, people still getting after them because of the pressure and the lack of sacks. And Caleb Williams was able to throw the ball around a little bit with Roma Dumze early on. But I think the one thing the Lions did very well in that game is they contained Caleb Williams. He only scrambled twice, or was able to get outside twice, and didn't make a difference in that matchup. And it goes unnoticed because of the offensive explosion, 52 points, Jared Goff, everything that happened on the other side. The Lions defensive line really did a great job containing Caleb Williams. Lamar Jackson is a different animal, and it's a more difficult task. But they have to do something very similar to what they did with Caleb Williams. So you may not see them get after him as far as sacks and necessarily pressure rate during a passing situation. But they need to continue the great performance they had against Caleb Williams as far as that type of contain. I think that was a huge part of their game plan. They had to do that because it's killed them in the past, and it's going to be so key in this matchup with the Ravens. John Herman says, I don't care about the Ben Johnson hoopla. Just happy to see the boys play like I know they can. I'm with you, man, because I think, to me, it was like the way that Ben Johnson walked off the field. If you go and look at some of the video, he very quickly shook Dan Campbell's hand. I think Jared Goff caught him very quickly, and then he beelined it past everybody and was like out of there. Because I think he also was done with the hoopla. I think he has a tougher task ahead of him, obviously, than what I'm just describing here. But my point is, I think he was ready to move on. I think the Lions fan base, the Lions certainly, they wanted this game, but I think they also want to get past this game. And I think that was sort of the point, and that's where I'm at with it too. Let's get on to Baltimore. Let's see what the Lions are truly all about. I'm glad they got the win. They should get that win. They were a better, more talented team against the Bears, and they showed it on all aspects, offense, defense, special teams. But now moving on to Baltimore, they're going to have to continue that. And that's it. Well, that's it, Lion King. Chicago's not a measuring stick. It was a blip on their schedule this year because of the Ben Johnson situation. But it certainly is not a measuring stick. This one is. Baltimore will be. We're going to learn a lot about truly what the offensive line for this Lions team looks like. And that's probably going to be my focus. How do they handle the trenches, especially offensively? I think they have the toughness defensively. I'm not necessarily worried about that. Again, it's more about the contain of Lamar on that side. But offensively, can they establish themselves, their offensive running game, that dominance? Can they get that going against this Baltimore front? Question for you guys in the chat. Is Lamar Jackson scarier when he's throwing darts, and he's able to start throwing the ball around the field, use the arm strength? Or is he scarier when he's running wild and he's making plays with his legs, getting first downs? Let me know in the chat. What would you rather see? What is more scary from the Baltimore Ravens quarterback, Lamar Jackson, when he's pinpoint passing or when he is wild child using those legs and running all over the football field? In my opinion, the Lions have to try and make him as much of a pocket passer as possible. That's the best game plan, in my opinion, that you can have against Lamar Jackson. Allow your secondary, your linebackers for the Lions to make plays. We saw Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph both make huge plays against the Bears and all last season. That has to continue against the Ravens. Their secondary has to be stout. If you're going to contain Lamar Jackson, and we know even if he is able to get out of trouble, and that's, to me, where he's dangerous, is when he then decides to throw the ball after scrambling out of trouble. Those are the kind of things your secondary has to be ready for. I mean, they have a lot of playmakers in their offensive weaponry, not only in the running back room, but wide receivers, Hopkins, Walker. Now, their running game wasn't excellent in week 2, but they've shown that they can get things going on the ground. And the one thing the Lions, again, have to hang their hat on, they contained Caleb Williams well in week 2, but the thing they've done, not only even in week 1 against the Packers, week 2, and then all of last season, even through all the injuries, all the things that were happening defensively, the Lions' run defense has been relatively good. And you add Tyleik Williams to the mix, a healthy DJ Reader, The linebackers are stuffing well. You got Jack Campbell, a tackling machine. We know what Alex Anzalone can do. So Lions defense is pretty stout. So you wonder what then the Baltimore Ravens will bring to the table as far as their offensive game plan. It's going to be interesting. To me, again, for the Lions, it's about containing Lamar Jackson, trying to make him a pocket passer and relying on your secondary to make plays. Brent says he's scarier running. I agree with you, man. I agree with you. As soon as he breaks the pocket, the play turns into a scramble play. That's where things tend to lose control. I mean, and that's for a lot of teams, but especially for the Lions who like to play a lot of man. You can only cover man-to-man for so long. And when it's a scramble drill play and Lamar's extending his pocket or extending his time to be able to make a throw, I mean, that's going to be tough for the Lions. So they really have to do a good job on him. And I just think ultimately the more times you can put Lamar Jackson in a situation where he has to make third and longs, or if you have to force it late in the game, that's where I think they may be more prone to turnovers. And the Lions seem to have a knack for now creating turnovers, maybe even more so than seasons past. And that's something they've really focused on in the offseason and in training camp. And we saw that through some of the joint practices and in preseason games. So that's something that I think would help in this game. Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for the Ravens to establish a run game. I mean, I think they're going to want to try and, like at any football game, you want to try and control the trenches. I mean, if they can at least provide the illusion that they're going to run the football, it'll help in their passing game. It'll help Lamar Jackson. I mean, they also like to run a lot of play action as well. If they can't at least show that they might try to run, then they have some issues. But you're right. The Lions' run defense is stout. So that's not typically the key to success against the Lions' defense. So let's go through some key matchups. Lions, Ravens. We've spent a lot of time talking about the defensive line and what they have to do with Lamar Jackson. So outside of that, what other things are we looking for? I think on the offensive side for the Lions, they're wide receivers again. And coming off the matchup with the Bears, Amon-Ra St. Brown reestablishing his dominance. We know what Jameson Williams brings to the table. And they can hit all areas of the field, all lengths of the field, all sideline to sideline. I mean, they really control all areas of the field here as far as what the Lions offense can do. But I think the Ravens secondary might be the one spot where you kind of have strength against some strength. So that's going to be a big matchup. Can the Lions receivers make plays? Ultimately, can the offensive line for the Lions give Jared Goff enough time to make plays? But I think before any of that, can the Lions establish that run game? Because if that happens, I mean, and that's just been the history since Dan Campbell has taken this thing over, even a part of the Ben Johnson crazy offense. I mean, it was being able to pin everything back and run the football when you had to. And that was on the basis of having one of the best, if not the best offensive line in football. And they can't say that right now. They had a good showing in week 2, but they have to continue that. And certainly they want to have a better interior rushing attack. So that should be a focus this week. Can they establish the run game against Baltimore? If they're able to do that, I think the offense can take off. That's what this Lions team is all about right now on the offensive line. Is it gelling? Is the communication happening? Can they go on the road in a tough environment on Monday night in a loud stadium and get it done? It's a tough task. And that's the thing. The discipline of the defense has to be next level against Baltimore. Because, again, you're not dealing with just Lamar Jackson, his athleticism, his scramble ability. But to be able to work that RPO, that makes the linebackers play so key. And they can't cheat this. I have a feeling that there might be some exotic looks by Baltimore in this game because Kelvin Shepard and his trying to establish his routine,
that you might see a lot of that Lion King. You might see a lot of RPO with Lamar in this matchup, more than usual. Force the Lions to make decisions defensively. I guess the honest truth is, can the Lions now, with their current depth versus what they had at the end of last season, can that talent hang in there, be disciplined enough, and then also have enough talent to hang in there, contain Lamar Jackson? But you're right, the RPO is tough. To defend the run pass option is tough in itself, but you add Lamar Jackson and some of the athleticism that he brings to the table more than other quarterbacks, it's very difficult. Ultimately, which matchup do you think decides this game Monday night? What is that key matchup? Is it one group against another? Is it one player against another? Is it ultimately Jared Goff against Lamar Jackson? Which quarterback plays better? Let me know down in the chat. What is that key matchup that decides the Monday night game, Lions versus the Ravens? Lion King says, here's why we win. Goff can finally hit Williams in stride. Last time they cheated the box, they have to send a robber at Williams. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely been, now over the last offseason, they've established more of a rapport. They've allowed Jameson Williams to open up his route tree. I think it allowed Jared Goff and Jameson Williams time to work together to learn each other's true nuances rather than timing of a go route, timing of a deep ball, timing of a post versus the nuances of a turn and go, a sluggo, a 10, 12, 15 and out, an in route, a go route, a dig, a lot of things. I mean, I think they've been able to shore up some of the nuances of his route running tree. They've expanded what he's able to do within the offense. And I think it's going to create problems. I mean, they haven't even opened him up yet. Didn't really do anything week one. And week two, he had the deep ball, and it was it was a blown coverage more than anything. But that's always a threat. And that makes the Lions offense so scary, having the deep threat. But now ultimately you can work him in a lot of different ways. Brent says a trench war on both sides of the ball is going to be the key. Concerned about the communication on the road. That's a big one. That's a big one because that's what the Lions claim was kind of the issue week one in Green Bay. The word was that Green Bay didn't sell tickets to a lot of Lions fans, so you didn't see a lot of Honolulu Blue during their home opener, which in turn created a much more adverse environment against the Lions, and that communication, I think, was part of the problem. So will that then continue on the road in Baltimore here in week 3? That's a great question. And that's really why it's a measuring stick game. So what are those keys to victory? Again, we talked about, what's the key matchup? Along with that, what are the keys to victory for the Lions? And again, to me, it's all up front. You gotta establish a run game and protect Jared Goff. If that's the case, they're able to distribute the ball to all of their weapons any way they want. Any way that they want. Remain healthy up front, consistent offensive line play. Jared Goff becomes a better quarterback, and that efficiency leads the day for this Lions offense. And it's, it seems like an easy formula, but when we saw the difference in week 1 versus week 2, again, we're looking at two different defenses, Packers compared to the Bears, and now we're talking about the Ravens. So this is going to be a real big test for the Lions. The running game has got to stay effective. It has to. It's got to be the bread and butter. It always has been. It needs to be moving forward. It allows the Lions to do the play action game. And again, leans into that Jared Goff efficiency, timing, reading through your progressions, finding their huge weapons. And on the road too, guys, and this is so simple, but it's you have to protect the football. The Lions have got to try and be turnover free here. And the one interception in Green Bay hurt them, but that wasn't the only thing. But when you're on the road and it's early on the season, turnovers play such a huge factor. So that's got to be, ball protection's got to be at the forefront. I agree. Lion King goes on to say, then we can run the football, helps our fake run pass play option. You can do it all. I mean, the offensive line is so key to this. The run game, that's the bread and butter. And by protecting the football, you're not giving up free possessions, right? You're not allowing Baltimore more offensive opportunities. Try not to get down early on the road. The Lions can battle out of a lot of things, though. I never truly worry about it. I mean, it got a little out of hand, and it clearly didn't work in their favor week 1. So you don't want to fall in that kind of hole. But the Lions can battle. I think it's just about the way that they look. Don't give them the game. If Baltimore takes some things early on, that's fine, but don't give it to them, if that makes sense. So right now, the Lions are slight road favorites per Pride of Detroit. Slight road favorites. I'm actually surprised at that. I'd like to take another look at that as we get a little bit closer to game time. Let's see if ultimately that holds true. And ultimately, what is this week 3 about, right? It's the measuring stick game. I think it's about proving that week 1 was a fluke. Week 2 wasn't a fluke. And week 3 is establishing what this Lions team really is and what they will be moving forward against quality Super Bowl contender like competition. This is a real fun game. Millicent says our guys are hungry to win at Baltimore. I think they are. Lions teams under Dan Campbell seem to play with a chip on their shoulder. And these games where they've been done wrong in the past, according to them, they really try to get back at these. Think about Dallas, and then think about what they just did to Ben Johnson. So will there be some animosity there as built up from that Baltimore matchup a couple seasons ago where they were really controlled? That was a shocking game because the Lions had opened up so well that season. I think, what were they, 8-1 at the time? I think it was. I could be wrong. Somebody can let me know in the chat if I'm mistaken there. But they were rolling and winning to Baltimore, and I had a lot of confidence going into that game, I remember, and they got steamrolled. So, again, this is kind of that revenge game now, and does that play a factor here? So let me know, guys, in the chat. Drop your score predictions for this game in Baltimore. Lions travel to the Ravens Monday night. I think it's going to be an 8:25 kickoff, somewhere in there. Let me know what the final score will be. What is your prediction? Lions versus Ravens. Hit me up in the chat. Lion King says, last time Ravens corralled Monty and Gibbs, not this game with Williams running past the high safety. Yeah, they can't load up the box, right? They do. They're going to run right past them. That's a great point. It's a great call. Or they try and force that hand, right? Which could be a mistake against this team and this Lions offense, this version of J-Mo and Goff versus previous years. But maybe they try that. Maybe that's the game plan. Do they say, the heck with it, we're going to bring up that safety in the box, try to play it, try to force them to go over the top? Kind of would be the opposite of what Jeff Hafley and the backers did. And that, to me, seemed like the formula. At least it did at the time, where you play those two deeps, and then you're basically clogging up the deep middle. So all you can do is check down, check down, check down. Some teams are okay to operate that way. I mean, Tom Brady operated that way his whole career, and he won more Super Bowls than I have fingers almost. So it's like, it just you got to know how to manage it. This Lions team, I think, has the ability to attack you from anywhere. I think in week 1, it was more about John Morton establishing how does he quickly flip into that, and just didn't. It takes time to learn your talent, learn how to adjust in game, mid game, against quality opponents, especially. And this is going to be another great test. Danny Clute says who the Lions are. I think you mean like that's who the Lions are. I got you, Danny. I feel that. Lion King says Detroit 35, Ravens 24. I like that score. Let me know in the chat what do you got for the final score, guys. Again, we got a 35-24. Brent says 34-31 Lions. I like that. You guys are kind of hanging around the same area. Danny goes 37-40 for the Lions. Okay, so we're going to go, are we saying 37 Ravens, 40 Lions? I think that's what we're going for, Danny. Which, again, big offensive output. All three of those scores, big offensive output for the Lions. But the Lions did average 33 points last year. So, and they scored 52. So who knows? I'm not sure. I don't have a score in my head right now, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I've toyed with some things. I like the scores you've just given. I'm not saying I'm away from that at all. But I will give my final score and prediction in my game preview video, which comes out every Friday morning. We'll be doing Lions Ravens Monday night game preview. Again, that comes out Friday morning, typically through my YouTube channel. But again, if you search at Johnny Gaz Sports on any of the socials, you can find that fun, free content. Some of that is taken and divided up into shorts and posted on the other socials, but you can find it anywhere and everywhere you have your social media content. So let me know. Final score, guys. What do you have for Lions versus Ravens Monday night? Monday night. It's going to be a great matchup, a measuring stick matchup for not only the Lions, but the Ravens as well. I mean, they've been there, but, you know, to hang a victory on the Lions would be very impressive as well. So they're going to be out for it. And that crowd is going to be hyped. It's going to be a great atmosphere. It's going to be a fun watch. Millicent says 28-24 Lions. Let's go. I agree. Let's go. Again, I like the scores, guys. I love the confidence. We love our Lions. We certainly do. So let's recap. We talked about week 2. Lions demolished the Chicago Bears 52-21, spoiling Ben Johnson's return. Caleb Williams held in check pretty much. And they showed off their offensive historic efficiency, that it's back, it's here, hopefully here to stay. This John Morton offense was able to put something together. It was so much fun. But can that continue into week 3 and beyond? And that's the true question. Can this measuring stick game against Baltimore, can they carry this through? Can the defense hold Lamar Jackson in check? Hold the Baltimore Ravens weapons in check? Can this defensive line continue to establish itself, not only through containing Lamar, but actually getting home? John Herman says Lions 30, Ravens 28. Jake Bates with a field goal wins it. I love it. I love it. A late game thriller. I love that. So the Baltimore Ravens loom. Can Goff stay clean like he was in week 2 through this offensive line play? Can that continue? Because that, to me, is everything for the Lions right now. This offensive line continuing to gel, the communication, the continuity, getting the running game established, not only on the outside, but through the interior, giving them more options, playing the play action. All of that is what makes this offense, this John Morton scheme, great. And it has to start up front in the offensive line. What do we see out of Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, these superstar defensive players who started to make plays in week 2? Hutch gets his sack. Can he keep that rolling? Can he continue to be the anchor of this defensive line? Can Brian Branch continue his ascension into all-pro status? Had a sack, forced fumble, multiple tackles for loss. He was all over the field against Chicago. He's really the jack of all trades for this defense. He's so important. Can he continue this against Baltimore? And can Detroit ultimately prove that they're more than just division bullies? Again, this is a huge game against the Ravens. I'm so excited to watch it. This will really be a test for the Lions, and we're going to learn a lot. So last question for you guys in chat for the evening. And thank you guys so much for being involved tonight. I appreciate it so much. John Herman, Millicent, Danny, Brent, Lion King. I appreciate you all so much, more than you guys know. Tell your friends, tell your family. Let's get everybody involved. Philly Mike was in here. A lot of fun tonight, guys. So much fun. My last question for you in chat. If the Lions beat Baltimore on Monday night, does that make them Super Bowl favorites? And I know it's early in the season. It'll only be through week 3. So it's an early prediction. Things will change. But if they're able to go into Baltimore on a Monday night in week 3 and continue this offensive dominance, get a victory there, start 2-1, do they now ultimately become the favorites? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments below. I'm very curious. I think it would really give them a leg up, not only on the NFC side, but throughout the NFL, to be able to beat one of the AFC top contenders. That would be a huge, huge stamp for them in this season. And they have a lot of tough games ahead. So finding victories wherever they can is very important. Very, very important for these Lions. Do me one favor, guys. Make sure to go check out the Villains YouTube and Facebook page. He's going to have John Macaron on from the Sports Illustrated tomorrow morning on his live. So definitely go check out 313 Villain Squad, YouTube, Facebook. He's given me a fantastic platform to post my content, my material. I've really, really appreciated that. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Johnny Gaz Sports on YouTube. Become a member over on Facebook or on YouTube. So much fun content available. I do a lot of good stuff for members through my YouTube channel, a lot of fun stuff for the subscribers through Facebook. But again, there is always fun, free content available. Smash that like button. Share the stream wherever you can, guys. I really appreciate it. Danny Klute says, yes. Brent says, not favorites, but puts us in the top 5 for sure. I'm okay with that. From where we started week 1, to even talk about top 5 in the NFL at that point, I'd be very happy. So I'd be all right with that, my man. Make sure to come back and see me. Next Tuesday, we will be live again at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, hopefully talking about another Lions victory. It'll be fresh off of that Monday night game, so we certainly will be spending a ton of time reviewing that Lions-Ravens matchup, so come back for that for sure. Again, I'll have my game preview coming up on Friday morning, posted to YouTube, Facebook. All of the socials will have a notification of that video. Make sure to check it out. Hit that like button. I'll give you a ton of good information on the upcoming matchup. And I'll have shorts posted all week long with fun Detroit Lions content for you guys. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for getting involved in this live. Thank you to the Villain. Thank you to everybody who's been involved in the channel. My friends, my family for supporting me. It's been awesome. More than anything, you guys for liking and getting involved. It's so much fun. Detroit Lions football has been my life for so long, and to be able to share it in this capacity with you guys is a true passion. It's just something fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But more than anything, I hope you guys are enjoying Lions football. Take care of yourself and your mental health. Anything else I've said today doesn't matter if this isn't right. And I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. Peace and love. Enjoy your rest of your week. Go Lions.